Hi, welcome to Lesson 7 of City Vision University's Introduction to Christian Addiction Counseling. I'm Andrew Sears, and in this lesson, we're going to talk about self-management, but we're also going to talk about developing a degree plan, licensure plan, and career plan. So up to now, we've been basically trying to help give you an introduction to the field of addiction counseling and the field of Christian counseling. But now we want to help you get a plan to succeed. So we're trying to give you some tools to help you succeed. So we're going to start off, and some of these tools are going to be useful for you, but some of them are going to be useful for clients that you work with later. So, the general category, it's self-management skills. So what are self-management skills? The ability to organize your work and working environment to maximize productivity. So as a student, we want to help equip you for some of these skills. So to set boundaries with others, to manage stress and maintain balance, to maintain energy and rest effectively, to set goals and organize time towards those goals, to motivate yourself, to establish habits that promote health, to maintain spiritual disciplines and self-care, to develop relationships, community, and accountability to promote health, and to manage behavioral and other addictions. And part of the reason why I emphasize behavioral is many people in the field of addiction counseling, they don't have chemical addictions, but they might have raging behavioral addictions, and that can be really important. So we have a lot of different videos this week that kind of talk about various aspects of this. Now, one of the other tools that is helpful to have in your toolkit is being able to frame things in terms of fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So there's a big TED Talk that's on this that we have you read. So the fixed mindset, and this is going to be useful with clients. So the fixed mindset is, you're either smart or you're not on skills and honestly knowledge. It comes from hard work, and you can always improve. And we talk about the concept of neuroplasticity and the importance of recognizing that your brain's like a muscle. You don't use it, then it's not going to be strong. But you use it, it'll strengthen. Some people might be naturally able to grow muscles more quickly than others, but that doesn't change the fact that it's like a muscle. So, what do you do with challenges? Do you embrace them or do you avoid them? How important is effort? Is it essential? Is it unnecessary? How do you handle feedback? Is it useful or do you get defensive? And what do you do with setbacks? Do you use it as a wake-up call to work harder, or do you get discouraged or blame others? And one of the frameworks that I want you to apply this growth mindset versus fixed mindset, and I think this is going to be useful for both you and your students, is the idea of what people have termed attention deficit trait versus attention deficit disorder. Now, the reason why we emphasize this with our students is it's primarily attention deficit trait is something that's primarily caused by a distracting environment. So many of you work in environments, you might work at a rescue mission or a homeless shelter at a ministry where there's so many distractions all the time. So because of that environment, it's likely that you're going to have this attention deficit trait. So part of the reason why we emphasize that is it can be caused by lack of boundaries. It can be caused by poor nutrition, executive function skills, and this is framing it in a growth mindset. This is something you can do. So that's why, we want our students to understand that, someone might say, I have attention deficit disorder, which is a real thing, and that's important to recognize. But whether or not you feel like you have attention deficit disorder, if you have an environment that's distracting, then you need to try to control your environment and to take steps to address that. For our students working online, this is huge. So what's the implications if you have a distracting environment, or if you do think you have ADD or ADHD? So one is to have extremely strong boundaries for their study environment. I heard of one friend who, he went to college and he knew he had ADHD. So whenever he studied in a room with nothing but his book and a sheet of paper. So he couldn't be distracted by anything. So have fixed hours, treat it like a job, commit to 17 hours per week per course. Treat study hours just like a job, avoid all distractions. If you have family members, many of you have families, and say, respect the time as if you're at work if you keep getting distracted. A lot of people love listening to music or have the TV in the background. Studies have been shown that's kind of like the equivalent of studying with a joint after smoking a joint of marijuana. Music, the studies have shown that it's the lyrics that cause problems because your brain can't process words twice, and same thing with background TV. So if you have instrumental music, then that doesn't cause issues. Same thing with web browsers and any non-school related website, social media, keep that closed. If you have a problem with, mobile phone addiction, keep it out of the room. Turn off all your notifications. Close email and remove notifications on your computer. There's another study that showed people who leave email notifications on in their computer and they're always hearing dings. They had one group that had their email. They were checking their email while they were working in another group that smoked a joint of marijuana, and they found that the productivity lost was about the same between the two. Use a desk if possible and clear it from any distractions. And the idea is you want to study hard and rest hard. So, one of the videos we have you read in videos watch and articles we have you read is manage your energy by taking restful breaks, walking, exercise, prayer, worship, not things like, oh, I'm just going to take a break and watch, TV or video games or social media or websites. There's been studies that have shown with the best athletes, they both worked as hard as the second best athletes, but what they found whenever they measured how well they rested, the second best athletes didn't rest nearly as well as those who were the best. So that's something to think about. And the other thing, and if you understand how dopamine works, you should do rewarding things after studying, not before. And you can look up articles on the idea of dopamine detox. Don't give yourself the reward before you're done. So now the rest of this, I want to talk about how we framed our degrees and how you can create a degree plan. So stage one, with most people, you learn one tool. You might be coming from one school of thought among these five approaches to counseling in Christianity, or you may not have taken very many general ed courses. And the idea is that if all you have is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail. That's the law of the instrument. So what we're trying to do in our degree program is to help you have a big toolkit. So you have a lot of different tools. So this course is a survey of tools. So what most other courses will do is teach you mastery of, one or two different tools. So this is basically like you're going to Home Depot and you're looking at a bunch of different tools, but you're not going to become a master of it. We're just basically want you to be aware of them. And ultimately, the goal of the degree program is to have an extensive toolkit to use the right tool in the right context. So that's what we're trying to do. And there's the story of the wise engineer, and the story is that a factory asked him to fix their machine, and he came in and he had a hammer in this particular spot on this machine, and then they gave him a bill. He gave him a bill for $1,000, and they said, "Why did it cost $1,000? It only took you 5 minutes to fix that machine." And then he gave him an itemized bill, and he said, use of the hammer was $1. Knowing where to tap was $999. So that's what we're trying to do, is to help you understand what tool to use and to know where to use it in this program. So what are the components of a bachelor's degree plan at City Vision? Complete the major core courses, complete concentration courses. And if you're in addiction counseling, you don't have a concentration, but if you're in other degrees, that's what you have. And then you have general education. For a bachelor's, that's 30 credits, and we have 3 categories: broad knowledge and intellectual skills. You have to have at least 3 courses. Communications, a minimum of 1 course. Christian life and thought, a minimum of 1 course. And ultimately, you have to have 120 total credits with at least a 2.0 GPA. So before you graduate, if you say, hey, I'm ready to graduate, and you have one of these, you might even have 120 credits, but if you don't have these other things, we'll perform a degree audit and popularly let you do a degree audit that looks at all these factors. So the core courses for addiction counseling, this is the list of core courses. This is available on the addiction counseling homepage. You have the core electives, and you need at least 3. And the idea is that these are going to cover all of the 8 practice domains of addiction counseling. And what we want to do is we want to provide this holistic approach to provide Christian integration in summary courses. So City Vision's 3 values are Jesus, and that's where we provide a Christian worldview. So that's the integration into Christian worldview that we're trying to do here. The justice is very focused on having a holistic approach. We don't like to separate these things. We like to combine these elements. And then the technology largely just comes from online education. So that's our 3 values. So now using this analogy of the law of the instrument, so you could apply that to a degree, but you could also apply that to general education. So the purpose of general education is that most people are single discipline while most problems are interdisciplinary. They don't just require math, or they don't just require physics, or they don't just require chemistry. They are counseling. So ultimately, what we're trying to do, if we have our 5 views, and previously whenever I showed this diagram, I showed 5 lenses, but those are only a few of the lenses you could use. You have other disciplines that you could apply, and recognizing that each discipline kind of follows this 1 Corinthians 13:12. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I know even as I am known. God doesn't view the world through single disciplines. He combines all the disciplines. Our limited mind, lets us largely put on one pair of sunglasses at a time. But having multiple sunglasses allows us to put on multiple perspectives. And that's part of where we talked about, and you want to be able to solve problems using all 4 quadrants, not just using, the tools that come from counseling, but you might have an understanding of chemistry or biology or sociology or business, microeconomics, and, different tools. And this can be helpful, even if you aren't the expert on this, it'll know, oh, this person, needs to work on their ethnic identity development. That's a key part of their understanding. Well, you might get that through other electives. So the way we describe this in higher education is you want to have a T-shaped education. So deep education in your major, so that's this part of the T, and then broad education, so that's your general education. And ultimately, that's going to help you provide a better solution for, assessment whenever you're assessing clients. And, what a lot of people try to do is they try to say, everything's only in one quadrant because that's the tools that they were trained in. And the reality is, it's not helpful to just say, okay, everything is, due to a hereditary predisposition. But also it's important to recognize that some of these other fields might have things to contribute on this. So that's for assessment. Same thing with treatment. Being able to have a wide range of treatment. That's ultimately what we want to do. So that's the reason why we have this wide general education courses. So cross-cultural management and ministry does a deep dive on culture. And then, we have a lot of the addiction counseling courses can count as general ed. And we have, leadership courses, and then we have Christian life and thought from Bible courses and Christian community development and things along those lines. So courses can either count towards a major requirement or general education, but not both. So some other courses, just to highlight, if long writing assignments are a challenge for you, then you should take our English composition course in business. If distraction is a challenge, then I would strongly encourage you to take our course, Technology, Life Balance, and Addiction. And if you need help or you need to change your degree, then you can go to, you can email support@cityvision.edu. And, one of the things you're going to do in this week is you're going to work on a spreadsheet where you're going to do degree completion plan. Now, one thing that I would just add for non-addiction counseling majors, a lot of these things are assuming that you're an addiction counseling major in this course. If you're not an addiction counseling major and you're taking this course, then you should do this degree plan based on your major. So hopefully all this is helpful for you. If you have questions, ask your faculty member. And again, please share this the free version of this course with others. It's available for free on cityvisioninstitute.org. Thanks a lot.